Back with you on the newsfeed. Thanks for staying on. The two-day Next Generation of Aviation Professionals Global Summit is set to kick off on Tuesday in Durban. Now, the summit is aimed at accelerating development of the aviation workforce and come up with ways of addressing some of the sector's pressing challenges. To tell us more about this upcoming summit, joined by the Director of Civil Aviation at the South African Civil Aviation Authority, Khoza. Poppy, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I gather, as an industry, you have picked up that, look, we need to address this issue of a global strategy when it comes to the development of the workforce in the aviation sector. You're saying there could be issues within policy that we will need to respond to, but generally, is the view that you have a common shared challenge when it comes to the aviation workforce development. What is that challenge? Oh, I think you're muted there. If you can just unmute for us.
Oh, apologies. Good afternoon, Butabo, and it's good to be here with you at Newsroom Africa. Yes, of course, the South African Civil Aviation Authority, supported by the Department of Transport, the Minister of Transport, Minister Barbara Creecy, will be hosting a joint summit with the International Civil Aviation Organization from the 12th to the 14th of August here in Durban, South Africa. And we're very excited about hosting this event because what we have noted over the years, firstly, is that air travel is to increase. There are projections suggesting that in the next few years, or 2037, for instance, countries must expect that air travel will increase by double digits. And what it means and what it says to us is that as we project the air travel increase, we equally need to ensure that that increase is balanced with the qualified, competent skills, as it were, considering, of course, that the current population of aviation professionals is aging. I think the average age of the current pool of global professionals, as it were, is about 55 years. What it says is that we need to start with this conversation now and ensure that we begin to build this pipeline so that you are able to sustain aviation into the future. Yeah. The projections from the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is a UN agency, projects that by 2037 we will need more than 2 million new aviation professionals, and they're broken down as follows. About 665,000 aircraft maintenance engineers will be required. About 554,000 pilots will be required by 2037. About 922,000 cabin crew will equally be required, and also about 106,000 air traffic controllers will be required. So this conversation is really timely to say 2037 is around the corner. How do we ensure, because aviation training by its nature is highly technical, it can take a bit of time to build these skills to the level that will be able to sustain the industry into the future. What kind of conversations should we have now to ensure that we build this pipeline strongly, but also to ensure that as we build it, we also bring in innovation into the discussion.
So as the industry sits right now, you'd need to train 2 million people or so in the various categories that you have mentioned. 600,000 of those jobs are expected to come from Africa alone. But of course, you are looking at it from a global context. Is there an alignment between governments of the nations, the academia and industry around the standards that need to be adhered to and the quality of the training that needs to come out?
Absolutely. So, which is why we are hosting the third installment of this summit. It started in 2018 and it continued in 2019. But because of COVID, of course, it kind of stalled. And we are resuscitating it because from the advent of the COVID-19, And as the industry is robustly trying to recover, with South Africa, of course, almost at the 2020 levels of air travel, the big question for us is what do we do to ensure that we continuously, build and have, these skills, which we are currently competing for as things stand, because we did lose some of these skills during the COVID-19 era, and we haven't fully recovered. So it means that we need to reset faster as member states under this UN agency, come up with strategies that will ensure that indeed there is sustainability in terms of air travel across the globe.
What are the skills gap? I mean, we've got, of course, a shifting aviation internationally, trends speaking. We've got environmental pressures. You've got technological changes that you have to deal with. What gaps does that kind of pressure represent?
So from a South African context, what we've seen, firstly, I must indicate, Butabo, that the South African skills are well sought after. We carry licenses that are a marvel to the world. And I am not just saying it because I'm South African, I'm saying it because it's our lived experience. We see it all the time. In the area of flight procedure designers, for instance, we've seen how much we have lost the skills to the Gulf region, for instance, to Australia, to countries such as New Zealand, and many other countries. And the big question for us, which is our litmus test really, is how do we ensure that we retain those skills, but also we build the new ones, which will take us in the future.
Yeah. Now, as much as you say that, of course, we now have a process where we've got a draft comprehensive civil aviation policy out for public comment. I think it came out in May sometime, because the department still believe we can still strengthen and do even better to be a competitive player in the global aviation space. So where would we need to tighten our situation?
I would argue and say across the value chain, because civil aviation by its nature is quite a complex system. So each and every chain or each and every thread, lack of a better word, there are many dependencies. So one depends on the other. So what becomes important for us is that we need to have a full view of all skills across the board and make sure that we tighten and we don't leave any gaps. An aircraft, before it leaves, there are a number of professionals who work around it to ensure that, it departs safely and it lands safely in its destination. So the entire value chain, in fact, needs to ensure that there's adequate capacity for the current, but also for the future.
Yeah.
At this point in time, I would say as South Africa, we're doing fairly well, as you would know. We have quite a reputation when it comes to aviation safety, for instance, having been audited by international institutions who have given us a clean bill of health. So we pride ourselves in terms of ensuring that we continuously keep these skills in check, and we continuously ensure that the competence of these skills is a non-negotiable, which is why you would know we haven't had a hull loss or a major aircraft accident on our African soil involving a passenger airliner. And it's because of the robustness of our systems, the skills that we have, the skills that we ensure that it's the right skills, fit for the job or fit for purpose. But now we are saying what kind of skills will take us into the future, the skills that will be, ready for the future.
Interesting that you bring that up. I'm sure you know better what it means, that South Africa already boasts a 91.11% safety oversight rating, placing it in the top 20 in Africa. Even so, there is a call, though, especially according to this draft, for an independent accident investigation authority. Would that add value? Are there opportunities there for skills to be developed and certainly participate if that body would be in place?
Firstly, I must indicate that we are currently at 91.38%. in terms of our safety record, and number 20 globally, not just in Africa. So we are performing exceptionally well in a global on a global space. With respect to the issue relating to the aircraft accident investigation unit being separated, firstly, I must indicate, Butabo, that this is a fairly new standard. Many countries are still struggling in terms of ensuring that there is that separation, and that is because this is something that this UN body, the International Civil Aviation Organization, it's a standard that they introduced a couple of years ago. And of course, to establish a new institution is no small feat. It takes a lot of preparation. There has to be, legal framework in place and so on. And I'm very excited to say that the Department of Transport and the Ministry of Transport have led that charge very well, to an extent that we now have the legislative framework in place, which has been approved by Parliament, and the President has signed, in fact, the amended Civil Aviation Act. And that's a very important step, which takes us to this independence that we want to see. And I want to believe that in no time, the Minister of Transport will be making the pronouncements in terms of where are we going. But there's a lot of work that has happened in the recent past. As I'm saying now, we have an independent, we have an amended legislation which seeks to establish this independence. But I must also indicate that in as much as the accident investigation unit is still housed within the Civil Aviation Authority,
right,
it is independent in its function, in that it reports directly to the Ministry of Transport. So it's really a matter of logistics, Civil Aviation Authority providing logistics. There is a ministerial order which was published back in 2006 by the then Minister of Transport, separating the reporting lines of this accident unit directly to the Minister of Transport. But also there is a safety review panel, which I would say is a quasi oversight body of this unit, which also reports directly to the Minister of Transport. And therefore that independence in terms of the function has been separated for almost 11 years now. And that has been established. What is now required was really to strengthen the legal instrument, which will ensure that this independence is found in expression in the Act, but also, the modality in terms of it having its own board that will control the affairs of that unit, completely separate from the Civil Aviation Authority. And I think that in no time, as I've indicated, the Minister of Transport will make that pronouncement.
This is what we appreciate your time. Director of Civil Aviation at the South African Civil Aviation Authority there, Khoza, on the upcoming summit.